What is up, everybody? Welcome back to the Montana Method Podcast once again. Your host, as always, Nelson Rodriguez Jr. here in the Montana Mansion, as always. Today, I have a very special guest, someone I have a lot of respect for, someone I consider a good friend. I also consider him a mentor in many ways. He taught me a lot of things. He met me when I was very young, and I was coming up in business and just learning how to be a man and learning how to be a business person, learning how to be a lot of things. And this person taught me a lot of good principles that I use in my life today. And we just became friends. We stayed in touch. I actually used his legal services at one point. And I'm just excited. This is going to be a special episode. You guys are going to get a lot of value. And I'm going to show you guys a whole other younger side of me when I wasn't so professional. So my good friend, Abe Cardenas.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.
What's up, brother?
I'm doing good.
Good to see you, man.
How's it going?
Good. It's an honor to have you in my space.
Oh, it's my pleasure to be here. It's good
Definitely.
to see you doing this. Being
Yeah.
part of your story and part of what you're doing today. This is awesome.
Definitely. I've had a lot of old friends. You might, Christian and a couple old friends on.
Yeah.
Definitely. It's been a really good method to give out into the world what I've learned in a way that is very entertaining and educational and inspiring at the same time.
Absolutely.
As you know, my goal is to inspire. There's a lot of, as you know,
It's giving back. I know you have to
Definitely.
give back. I do that all the time. And I do it sometimes without even thinking about it. It's kind of like you just do. I love sharing what I've learned with people. I don't want people to. I don't hide what I know. I don't. Hold back, and I share, and I want other people to learn it and learn it easier than what it took me to learn it. So
Definitely. They say knowledge is power.
it is.
I think applied knowledge is power. If you use
Applied knowledge is nuclear power. It's different. Because knowing something is like, you can be sitting in your chair and you have a lot of knowledge, and okay, so it's power in terms of knowledge. When you apply your knowledge in your goals and your methods and what you're doing and what you're trying to accomplish, when you apply your knowledge, it's nuclear because you achieve things. Think about the people we know. Think about the people we see. What is it that separated them from the garden variety smart guy, right? Smart gal.
action.
It's action, applied knowledge.
Definitely.
So that's what, and I've learned a lot about that over the years.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, you're a lawyer, so
Yep.
work is a part of the fabric of your day, right?
It is. It is. Today was one of those crazy days for me.
You were telling me about the case you won today.
I had a case that I won in immigration court. What I do is immigration work, as you know. I do a ton of immigration. That's pretty much what I do, with a specialty here or there with still immigration related with criminal cases. But this was a case of someone who, unfortunately, she had been here for many, many years, actually now going on almost 3 decades. And, she saw herself maybe about 12 years ago, actually 13 years ago, she saw herself in a bad situation financially, distress at home.
You told me it was like
domestic
09,
violence.
like 2009.
Yeah, it was 09, yeah, something like that. And she got herself into some credit card scam business hoping to make a quick buck. She has 4 kids, abandoned by her husband, and she got herself into trouble. She got caught. And years later, it came back to her, blew up in her face, where she was apprehended coming back from a trip abroad, and she got put in removal proceedings, a.k.a. deportation. The official terminology is removal. And it took 7 years, and it was a hard fight because they were trying to really apply some really strict laws that were passed in 1996 They were trying to apply these laws to her. We were applying. We applied for a waiver. In Spanish, we call that un perdón, which means a forgiveness. Okay?
Right.
I like that word better than waiver, because waiver is too technical. But what they're really doing is they're forgiving you for what you did, and they're choosing to not apply the law of punishment. In other words, you're going to get deported. They
Right.
don't apply that law because you meet certain qualifications, and in this case, she did. She had, the children, all very successful, 2 minor kids still, and she was able to show that. But for this one dumb moment in her life where she made a bad choice, she was able to apply for this waiver, prove to the judge that she merited winning this waiver, and we was successful in getting it for her. One more staying here, not getting deported. Her life would have been destroyed. They probably weren't going to deport her because of the fact that she still has 2 young U.S.-born children, but it would never have been the same for her. And eventually, one day, she might get deported. But now, she doesn't even have to think about that. She's back to being straight with the government, and probably the next step is her citizenship now.
Wow.
So I know, yeah.
Wow, man.
That's wonderful. I love that. That to me is like when you get your green card, right? You become a legal permanent resident. The way I compare that is to like, gold membership, right? Right? But when you become a U.S. citizen, that's like executive platinum VIP pro,
Right.
something like that. Something like that. And you become you become a part of the American dream. You become a part of the American history, regardless of where you're from. That's the beautiful thing about America, is it doesn't matter where you're from. You become a citizen, you are part of America now. You are as equal to being an American as if you were born here. That's the beautiful thing. I love that.
It's funny. I learned this from one of my cousins. One day he was like, I'll say it in English, but lo cubanazo, you know how they say it in Spanish.
I know.
He was like, no, you don't understand. I used to have to make all these lines at the airport when I had my green card.
Yeah.
It was, now I got the blue passport.
Yeah, you got the blue passport, and if you get global entry, there is no line. Man, it's beautiful.
And he was like, no, Americans.
I just came back from a wedding in Colombia, and when I got here to the Miami airport, I was walking past this incredibly long and thick line of all these green card holders. They're legal permanent residents, but they got to wait on this super long line, maybe 45 minutes an hour to get into the United States. And I walked past all of them to global entry. All I do is show my face to a camera, and it takes a picture, and it approves me, and then I go. The guy checks out that I'm who I am, and I just walk through.
Right.
Nothing, no questions, no guards. It was amazing.
What a different process, right?
Yeah, that's executive platinum pro level. Everybody who's listening to this, who is not who's not a U.S. citizen, and you have your green card, get your butt in gear and get yourself to be a U.S. citizen. Apply. Don't keep putting it off.
Well, this story reminds me of my father, which you've met and you've spoken to him about his legal situation. It's such a shame because he was fine in this country for years before he got in trouble with the law. He could have been a U.S. citizen years ago.
I deal with that all the time.
And it's like, man, you could have been a citizen. Like, it wouldn't have even been a problem. You would have messed up, and, you would have gotten arrested or whatever, but you would have been, it would have been a different case.
You do your time and you go home. You don't get deported.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know.
I remember you telling me. It's a good thing he ran into you, because he was like, no, he hasn't been to Cuba since he left. He hasn't been to Cuba in almost 40 years.
I know.
So he was like, man, it's been so long. Maybe I should go back and just visit the family. And then you were like, listen, bro, I don't think
you go back. Coming back is, you can go, but when you come back, it's not going to be. It's not going to be pretty. Yeah, it's going to get ugly.
Yeah, immigration is always a hot topic, right? It's always something.
Now it's even hotter. When I first started, I've been doing this now. I actually celebrated my 31st lawyer anniversary, where I was admitted to the bar 31 years ago. I'm now entering 32 years as a lawyer, and I say that, and it's hard to believe, but it's a journey. It's been a trip to get here, ups and downs, and the practice of law is one thing, and then the business of law is another
totally
thing.
Different one.
Yeah, and getting both of those taking care of both of those is important. Yeah.
What got you into law? So let's talk a little bit about, because I don't know much about, I know you grew up in New York, right, in Brooklyn?
Yeah, I was born and raised in Brooklyn, New York. De Brooklyn. And I grew up in a very, I grew up in the ghettos. Okay, let's be straight. I'm not no kind of money, poor, and is probably one of the worst neighborhoods in New York City. Believe it or not, I grew up happy, despite the fact that it was a rough neighborhood and everything. Just go back and look at some of the urban movies of the 70s and 80s, and that's where I come from, New York City, inner city. And but I grew up happy. I was a church-going kid, all that, and that keeps you level-headed, and you stay focused, and you grow up with certain fundamental faith principles,
right.
And that's important. That really is super important.
Keeps you grounded.
It does. And I had a mother, a Cuban mom, who just pushed us to study, and she never held us back. I don't know where. Sometimes I think back to some of the things that we did, my brother, my sister, and I, stuff that cost money, and it just appeared. And my mother was a sweatshop worker. You know what that is? It's like when you work at a sweatshop sewing for 10 to 12 hours a day.
Making nothing.
Yeah, making
And in the 70s.
Chumps in the 70s, yeah. And I mean, literally sweatshops. I remember walking in there to see her, and it was like a sauna in there. It was crazy. They call them sweatshops for a reason. But we grew up happy. And I got, fortunately, I had some brains, and I did good in school, and I went to specialized schools for and back then they would literally separate the bright kids from the not so bright kids, and I was fortunate to get into one of those type of programs, and my brother, my sister, and I, we all exceeded, and we were successful. We've since all been very successful in what we do. But you asked the question, is what made me want to become a lawyer?
Right, yeah.
I started working in this. I moved to Pennsylvania, right? I was going to college, and I was in Pennsylvania. And I started working as the first Hispanic housing counselor in this little town of York, Pennsylvania, in this organization. And I just started seeing the unfairness, the bad treatment that Spanish people were getting. But what I learned, because York was this little town in the middle of farmland, and it's mostly white Americans with a small population of Latinos and other small population of Black Americans. And, what I learned is that the discrimination that people complain about, rightfully so in many, many cases, is not so much about you being a Spanish person, Latino, whatever they call themselves now. I hate Latinx. Please. Please don't tell me you use Latinx.
No,
that's
we're not a
insulting.
Latinx.
No, we're not Latinx.
We do not approve of that.
No, we do not. I do not either. But you know what I mean.
Right.
People of Latin background.
Right. I usually say Hispanic.
Yeah, Hispanic,
yeah.
Latinos, those are more acceptable terms. But that Latinx thing, that's like take a pencil and stick it in my eye, bro. It's like, I don't want to do anything about that.
You ever heard like someone scratching nail? Like,
yeah, that's it. That's
chalkboard?
exactly it. That's it.
I'm like, bro, it's...
Yeah, no.
Anyway.
I'm glad to see that a lot of people are really not
going with it.
Going with it.
Yeah.
Of all extremes of politics, whatever.
I think and I know we're getting off course. We'll go back to this.
Yeah, we'll go back to court.
It's really arrogant because you're not. First off, you're not Hispanic, right? And then you're gonna tell Hispanic people this is what you're called.
Whoa, that's one of the things that I was going to talk about. So one of my observations over the years is that the discrimination, a lot of it, most of it, is economic.
Interesting. Okay.
It's economic because I saw Black poor people, Latin poor people, and white poor people getting equally treated badly, discriminated. And it was, I'm not going to say that, no, by no means am I saying that there isn't racism because of your skin or background, ethnic, but one of my observations is that economically, that's one of the big things. And I saw that, and it it made me think, and it affected me. And then I remember after I went full-time to college for a few years, and I finished off going to night college. And I remember when I specifically decided, there was something that happened. I don't remember what happened with one of the people that I was helping with. And I said, I gotta do something. And I had the brains, and I said, I got the grades. So I went into my guidance counselor at the university. And I said, I want to be a lawyer. Now, she was this very old woman, white old woman, and I hate to bring race into it, but I think it had something to do with it. And I'm not the kind of guy that screams racism. You know, that it's got to be extreme, and it's got to be
blatant.
Right, blatant for me to call it out. But every once in a while, something happens, and it is what it is. So I go to see my guidance counselor, and I tell her, I want to be a lawyer. You know, can you imagine me with the books walking into the office in school at the university? And I say, I want to be a lawyer, and what's it going to take for me to do it? And how much can I finish my classes? You know, what kind of classes should I take? And she was the mother of a lawyer in the city. So she knew what it took, right? And she was like, oh, are you sure that's something you want to do? You think you have the grades for it? You think you want to? Do you think you have the stamina for it? You know, give me those subtle. Maybe that's not for you. Well, why not? Why not me? And I mean, to me that was like, I have the grades. Look at you got the book. Or look at me at the record. Look at my grades. I've got what it takes. But I got this bucket of cold water thrown on me by this woman, and I was
a dream stealer.
No. Right, exactly. But you know how I walked out of that office? Pumped up and stoked like never before.
That's awesome.
I was like, oh yeah? Let me show you what I'm capable of doing. Because that's usually been the way I've done things, is whenever I have my objectives, my goals, don't you dare stand in the way of that, because I will walk right over you. I will walk over you, walk to the side of you, whatever. But if I set my mind on something, I'm going to do it, and I did. And to make a long story short, I wound up making one application to the University of Maryland School of Law in Baltimore, which was only about 50 minutes away from where I was living in Pennsylvania, and they accepted me. And the only school I applied to, students apply to 20, 30, 40 law schools. I only applied to one. And I'm not saying that to boast. It's just like I had this sense of confidence that has sometimes failed me in my life, where, you lose your confidence. But I had this sense of confidence, and I got into law school. Next thing you know, I'm there. And of course, you go through the imposter syndrome moments. Everybody does.
Everybody does.
I've heard even some of the most successful people talk about that.
Definitely.
But then I finished, and I started practicing on my own from day one all those years ago, and here I am. But what made me do it is the altruistic. I want to help people for real. I really did. I saw, I was seeing a need, and I wanted to do it, and I've helped. At this point, I can't even remember how many thousands of people have gone through my practice, and I've helped a bunch of them, including today when I won this case that I was in the immigration court about.
So I have a list of people. I call it the buy you lunch list. And it has to do with what you just said. That lady, what my goal when I get to a certain place in life is, I want to look for these people and buy them lunch and be like, hey.
Well, I think she's long gone.
Well, no, I know. I mean, that was years ago. But yeah.
But I know what you mean. Yeah, you want to let them know that you were capable of what they thought you were not capable of.
And genuinely thank them, because if it wasn't for you pissing me off, I wouldn't have gotten all that.
Dude, I am grateful. And we're sliding into Thanksgiving in 2 days, right?
We are, yeah.
And I am grateful for all the good and all the bad that has come about in my life, because growing up the way I did, poor, inspired me. The negativity that I met in life, the discrimination that I personally experienced, the racism,
Right.
discrimination, and all that, has only served to ignite this fire under me to just keep me moving, to fuel me to go forward and to do more and better and so on.
100%.
Yep.
I'm definitely of the philosophy that you have to, what makes the good feel so good, like the moments that are fantastic, the moments you pray for, the moments you work so hard for, is all the garbage you had to endure all the way
Part of
there.
it. But you know,
It's part of
again,
it.
when you do,
That's what makes it
I don't
feel
know,
so
I'm
good.
sure you're like me. You read and
Right.
read a lot of biographies of successful people.
Right,
Right.
right.
For me, I love to see success. I love to see people who succeed. I have a brother who's very wealthy in Texas, and we come from the same stock, you know, and we grew up in the same bad neighborhood in Brooklyn. And my sister is a PhD doctor, Cardenas, in New York City at a university, and my brother is very wealthy, a multimillionaire in Texas, very successful. Man, that makes me so proud. Anytime I see people succeeding, you know how there are some people, in Spanish we call it envidiosos.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have an ounce of that, because it's like the only time I may complain about someone succeeding is when they're suddenly temporarily succeeding, committing crimes and things like that.
Things like that.
You know,
of course.
because that's like, that's like cheating. That's
Definitely.
But success to me is like spread it around, show people whatever I've learned, to help you, shave 10 hours off of studying so that you can know it with me explaining it to you in 5 minutes, because I put the 10 hours in, or somebody put the 10 hours in and gave it to me. Sharing and sharing success and wishing people success and being happy for people. Thanksgiving is that time where we remember, and for me, it's like gratitude. And I'm a person of faith. I'm a person who is constantly praying and thanking God for everything. And by no means, I always tell people, look, that doesn't make me, un santo. I'm no saint or anything. But I am a person of faith, and like you said, that creates certain principles in you, and you move forward with that,
Sure.
in your life. And in my practice, that's something that I do is I treat my clients the way I would want this lawyer here to treat me if I was there on the other side of that table, and that's what I do, And it's always with a spirit of gratitude in everything, and I mean everything is the good, the bad, the pretty, and the ugly.
100%.
Yep.
There's merit in, when you see a dog in a dog fight, right, and he has a bunch of scars and he's all torn up, there's merit in that because it means he's survived. He's been through something. He's tough. He's game. And it's the same in life when you go through things and you have these, maybe not physical scars, in some cases physical scars.
Some cases,
right?
Yeah.
When you have these memories of these hard things that you went through, you always have these lessons that you carry forward that you eventually use to get you to a better place in life. So I tell everybody, never, ever, ever wish you didn't go through something, because that's probably the very thing that's going to teach you something that's going to get you to where you want to be. I see obstacles as more of like puzzle pieces, because you don't know what an obstacle is going to teach you until you get past it, right? So I'll give you a great example. I used to own a business where I used to have to deal with a lot of, I work for Cadillac now. I work in sales. So we deal with a lot of objections over the phone. I'm number one in Cadillac in the whole dealership, and I'm number two in the whole company.
Nice.
15 dealerships. Why? Because of all the practice I've put in overcoming objections over the phone. I've done it for years, right? That's how we met. So it was the reason I had to deal with a lot of garbage and a lot of clients treating me like crap and not knowing how to respond to certain things. The reason I had to go through all that and not make money is because I had to learn, this puzzle piece is, overcoming objections. Oh, this puzzle piece is sorting through clients. Okay, this puzzle piece is closing. Okay, and now it's like I put them all together. I have skills.
Right. It's learning. It's
all
each
process.
puzzle, each obstacle, each hard lesson is a learning experience. Definitely. That molds you and shapes you, and helps you to grow.
110%, definitely. You have to earn a good life. You have to earn the things that you want. You say you want. You can't just say I deserve it. Why do you deserve it? Because you say so? No. You know what I mean? You have to put in the work. You have to sacrifice. You have to want to be able to put yourself in a position to show the universe or God or whatever you believe in, all right, he deserves this. He's been working 12 hours a day for 6 days a week for the past 5 years. You know what? All right, it's about time we reward this guy,
right.
you know? So, I mean, as a lawyer, you guys work insane hours sometimes, so, you know.
Yeah, you also, over the past few years, I've gotten involved with an organization in Atlanta that specializes in helping people like me to grow their firm.
Okay.
And to grow their practice, right? And one of the things that you learn is to take control of time, and so over the past few years, I've learned to give myself time, right? Because I need to, I can't burn myself out to the point where I'm going to drop dead, because I work myself. So that's one of the things, and you realize that time control is important, and that involves being disciplined about how to manage your time and how to manage my business end of things. Because as a lawyer, I practice law, but because it's my own office, I have to run a business, and it is a business. It's a law firm, AKA a business. And you learn how to do all that stuff. You learn how to take control, but discipline, dedication, and it's what I said. The putting the knowledge into practice, because you can know a lot of things and not do any of it. What are you getting? Nothing. When you put it into practice, and you're going to make mistakes, and you're going to do that, and then you realize, and you adjust, and you push the steering wheel this way because you learn that this way is bumpy, and you adjust.
Definitely.
I know you talk about that a lot.
Yeah.
About successes and methods to succeed, and it starts up here. And where we met, that's one of the first things that they taught is the mindset. It starts with your head. You got to have the right mindset. First of all, you got to get rid of any kind of jealousy, and be there, jealousy and complaining about people and you focus on yourself and learn to be happy with other people's successes. Learn from their successes.
You got to get rid of the negativity.
Yeah, no, negativity.
It sucks the energy out of you.
One of the things that when I hire, and my office has literally, I thought about it this week, because I got an IRS notice, okay?
Okay.
And in the past, an IRS notice would make me, okay, and I can say this on this podcast. I know. Okay, you know how we have a defense mechanism, right? You know what our defense mechanism is when suddenly we're struck with fear, like that fear that just makes you pale for a sudden, like you're in the middle of a war and all of a sudden the guy pulls out the gun. What does your body do, right? Your balls shrivel up and they go right into you, right? Your body pulls them into you as a defense mechanism. This is an amazing defense mechanism that we guys have. I don't know if girls have anything similar to that, but I don't think so. But the guys, their jewels get sucked in to be protected. That's an actual anatomical, physical reaction that guys have. So I get this IRS notice, and I'm like, oh man. And I see a number that says like $53,000 on it, something like that. Do I owe them? What did I do? What did I screw up? And I took a breath and I realized that what the notice is telling me is that the payroll, my office payroll, I was going to say that my office has doubled in the last 2 years. And my right-hand guy is Ramon. You remember Ramon?
Of course.
And so over the past 2 years, my office has doubled in size. I just hired a new attorney. And the notice was telling me, okay, because your payroll is now at this level, you have to pay the payroll withholding taxes. You've got to pay them every 2 weeks, okay, which is a big deal. I used to be able to send a check every 3 months with the 941 forms and everything, and then it became like every month. But that's a sign. That IRS notice was good news of all things, because it was saying that my business had grown to the point that now I got to pay the IRS. The money that I take out of for payroll has got to go to the IRS every 2 weeks, which is growing. Growth. It is, exactly. But it's the discipline. It's just learning how to do it, and it's like I was saying, it starts with the mindset.
Isn't it crazy how the mind automatically goes to even guys like us who work hard to stay your mind automatically goes to like something negative.
Something negative. One of the things I did want to say was when I hire people, I always start by saying, in this office, this is a drama-free zone. We do not want drama, because what is drama?
Negativity. At its finest.
And it's subtle, and they disguise. There's the very clever people disguise it in so many different ways, pretending that it's it's to make things more productive. Yeah, mira,
and
I got your productive right here. Yeah, and it's in my office. I said I don't do any drama in my office. No one else is allowed to, and we have a very good environment. We really like each other. We get along together. We get along well, and it's just a lot of fun. Good. And we try to make sure that when we hire someone who has that spirit of no drama, working with each other, because we're a team. Yeah, I'm the guy with the license and the head, but we are a team. I am nobody without them. I'm really they make me shine, and like today's victory, right? It's just a group of people working together to make things come together.
That reminds me of a story. I've told this story on the last episode of the podcast, but I'll say it one more time because you're part of the story, and I didn't say that part of the story. So, you remember we used to go to conventions for the sales organization that we were part of and everything?
Amazing stuff.
Yeah, we used to. They were it was convention.
Yeah,
we used
you learned
to learn
so much.
Yeah, it was a great business school.
It was.
And there was this one convention that was in Phoenix. And then someone...
I remember that one.
Yeah. Someone was like, yeah, we got the hookup and we got cheap airline tickets. And the guy took like 10 people's money and he just disappeared.
Oh, I didn't know about that.
Yeah.
Wow.
He took... It was about $200 per person. There was about 10 or 20 of... He took about $2,000 and he just disappeared. Never saw him again. And back then, you knew us back then, right?
Yeah.
We were a bunch of broke kids trying to make a dream happen, right?
Exactly.
And... I had a decision to make. I had maybe $100 to my name, and a one-way flight was about $98. I bought the one-way flight. I didn't think about it. I didn't bat an eye. I was like, I'll figure it out.
That's
I'll
the mindset. That's what we talk about. That's what I was just talking about, the mindset.
I didn't have any money for food, and you gave me a plate of food that night.
I did?
You did.
I don't remember that.
I don't know how you found out, but you found out that
I think I remember. Now I'm thinking about...
You showed up at the doorstep of my hotel room, which, by the way, was someone who was letting me sleep in there because I didn't have any money for the hotel.
I remember something like that.
And I think you saw that I hadn't eaten the whole day. Like, you were watching me from afar. And then you knocked on my door, and you're like, Nelson. And you came with a full plate of food. It was like pasta, and I was starving. Like, just have dinner, man. I know. I got you. I'll see you tomorrow.
Man, I don't even remember that that vividly. But
that was a profound moment.
That comes from... that spirit of giving and that spirit of doing things without no looking back.
And on my side,
I have given people money and they come like
comes right back to you.
But they come back to me later, sometime in the future, trying to pay it back. I go, I owe you money. I honestly don't. I don't do it like that. I don't think of it like that.
No, but what I'm saying is, check this out. So on my side, the pure faith of knowing that trip was going to work out, it all worked out. And it was like, look, I got food. I got a hotel room. It was crazy. That trip showed me when you set your mind to something, there's no stopping you. I don't care how broke you are.
Yep.
I don't care if you have a bad background, if you're not qualified. I don't care if you've been to prison. Like when your mind is focused on something, and you say, "Come hell or high water, it's going to happen, or I'm going to die trying."
That's right.
Most of the time, you end up getting it done.
Absolutely, totally believe that. I've seen that over and over again in my in my lifetime. I've seen it with my own eyes.
It's a
mindset, and it's like, the classic thing that people say. Well, if you say you're not gonna succeed, you're right. You're 100% right. 110%. If you say that you're going to succeed, you're right. You're 100% right.
That trip, and then I ended up coming back. Someone found out that I didn't have, I was just there, and they were like, listen, we have a rental car, just hop in. And I ended up riding with somebody back, and I was in Miami 2 days later. It's crazy how that whole trip, it was just such a testament to that. It really showed me,
But those experiences, don't they just open you up and open up your mind?
Yes, so much.
And shows you the possibility of things in life and, just moving forward and...
And that, I'm sure you and I can talk about 10 different experiences where we thought we had these crazy circumstances, and we said, you know what, I'm gonna make this happen, and it happened in spite of whatever.
I can tell you that every time I've made a decision in my practice in like growing, and then moving to a bigger place, and like, oh my God, how am I gonna pay for this? And all this doubt just fills your mind. That's normal, but you do it anyway, and you faithfully do it, and you set your mind, and you try to block out any of that negativity, or the doubt, and you just do it. But again, if you read the people who have been successful, what's the name of this woman that I was reading her book? She has like this famous. She's on TV and everything. She was one of the Shark Tank people for a period of time. Anyway, I forget the name. I
know who you're talking about.
But she talks about it in her book about the doubts of growing and the fear of doing something the way she is now. She's she became this multimillionaire, successful in what she did, like a line of clothing and things like that. It's just amazing. It's
crazy that we feel all this fear and all this anxiety when we're about to take on something big. Yeah. And it's
normal. Those of you listening out there,
normal.
It's normal.
And it's crazy because that makes you want to stop you from doing it. However, it's a sign of the opposite. It's a sign that that's the right way to go.
And what separates the successful from the not successful are the ones that know how to keep going despite the fear, despite the doubt, despite the hesitation, despite setbacks. Because you might try 3 times and you might try 10 times and you didn't succeed the 10th time, but guess what? Maybe that 11th time is what it takes. How many people didn't do that? I'll give you a story close to home in Pennsylvania. When I moved out of New York City, I moved to Pennsylvania. Well, I lived about 45 minutes away from Hershey, Pennsylvania. We all know Hershey chocolate bars, right? We love them. I love Hershey chocolate bars. Well, you ever read the story about Hershey? Milton Hershey, the guy who found... I haven't, actually. This guy, he had failures. He filed bankruptcy back when filing... I'm talking about early 20th century, the 1900s, when filing bankruptcy was like...
Your life was over, right?
You were the plague. You were, the persona non grata. Nobody wanted to be with you. It was a bad, bad thing to do. Now you file bankruptcy and... that's like...
You're back in a few years.
Yeah, less than that. I have personally filed over 1,000 bankruptcies for people in my practice in Pennsylvania over the years. And I have had people who I did their settlement for their new house 9 months after I did their bankruptcy. But back then, it was a big deal. Well, Milton Hershey had huge failures. Wow. Big failures. And yet, one time... after all those failures, he came up with this concept of a chocolate bar. And it became what it is now, where they have a Hershey Park, and all that. A Hershey Park is like a Disneyland, but for chocolate.
But for chocolate,
it's a beautiful place to go.
Kind of like Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory.
It's kind of like that, something like that. And he had, but he also was a giving man. He has a school. He developed a school for orphan kids and a boys' school for orphan kids, and just a lot of charity work. And he's long gone, but he's left his legacy. And it was, despite the fact that he had failures, he pushed through it all. That's just one story. How many people do we know like that?
There's a saying that I have written in bold letters on the door before I walk out of my house. Genius is the capacity to take infinite pains.
That's one way to look at it for sure.
Right?
Absolutely.
If you just have the endurance to endure one setback after the other and just keep trucking and keep moving forward, guess what? It only has to work out once.
Success is something that involves pain. It just is something that involves pain.
Definitely. You got to stretch. You got to grow.
That's right.
If you've seen people on those torture machines in the medieval,
I know.
Getting stretched out.
They stretch you out.
That's what it feels like sometimes when you're trying to make something happen and you're the only one that believes in you. And really, it's I get it. I'm going through it even to this day. However, you develop a tough skin and you just learn the process, and it becomes not easier, but it becomes familiar, and you're not scared of it anymore.
Absolutely.
What used to hurt you doesn't hurt you anymore. You know, it's
Well, it still hurts, but you just tolerate the pain better.
I think it's not that it doesn't hurt because people are saying the same things. I think you're just expecting it, so it doesn't hurt as much anymore.
Yeah.
You know, but back then it was like if I started a business and my aunt would tell me, you know, who are you to start a business? You're an idiot. You're not a smart person. It would hurt because, oh my God, it's my aunt. Now, if my aunt tried to give me financial advice, I'd be like, bro, you're broke. You tried to borrow money from me last week. You know, I'm not saying that about my aunt.
No.
But I'm saying.
I know what you mean. Well, usually, I was going to say that some of the people who are closest to you and who saw you grow up because they saw you during some bad moments, bad behavior as you were a kid and everything.
They think they know you.
They think they know you, and you have changed your mindset. You think differently now. You're a different person. And some of the people who have hurt successful people the most have been their own family.
Yeah.
Yeah. And they're successful, and they're absolutely have already succeeded. They're not even on their way, and they're still having to put up with family who disses them, you know, and puts them down and so on. And after a while, you just learn to just, like you said, you disregard that because you now see it in the right frame. You say, you know, who are you to, you know, you've done nothing with yourself. You know, I'm not any better than you as a human being, but I'm successful because I think differently than you. You know, you know how to frame it. You know how to put it in, and just deal with it and shake your head and go, right, dear. Yeah, you're right. Okay, no, you're wrong.
Yeah.
But yeah.
And it's you just have to have it in the back of your head, like, yep, all right, I got you. I got your number. I'll take you to lunch.
I like that.
I'll take you to lunch in a few years. You know who I'm reminded of is my father. My father, back in my direct sales days, he was the most negative person. He was terrible. Yeah. And the funny thing is, I'm not talking bad about my father. I'm just using him as an example. It's always the brokest, most miserable people, most like that want to like give you advice.
Absolutely.
Right? And
but why do you think that is?
Because misery loves company, you know, unfortunately.
It's a reflection of how they feel about themselves.
Correct.
And they project that on you. And that's unfortunate.
Yeah. And then it's funny because like longevity builds credibility, right? Yeah. So I just kept at it. And, now I'm probably one of the best salesmen anywhere, right? And he supports me no matter what I've done. You know, I was in the medical marijuana business. Now I'm in Cadillac. I've done several ventures throughout my life, and he's my biggest cheerleader. He's always looking for ways to support me. Always because
he's come around. You see?
Woof, yeah. After like I said, longevity builds credibility. So you have to make sure you obviously have to follow through and be your word and work hard. However, once he got a small taste of results, he was like, wow, I didn't know my son was capable of this. You know.
But it also, I'm sure he saw your frame of mind, your mindset.
Right.
You know, the fact that you had determination. You weren't a quitter. You know, all that stuff, all that positive stuff that we're always reading in all these books that we read. Right.
Definitely.
Nonstop. I don't stop reading.
I try to keep reading. Yeah, audio.
I do it now mostly on audio, right? But I do absolutely keep growing and. That's one thing I would tell anybody who's listening to us. Be hungry to learn. Spend money on yourself. I mean, I just went to a conference in Atlanta. I got to meet the governor, Arnold Schwarzenegger.
That's cool. Oh, yeah, you took a picture with him. I saw
a picture with him and everything.
The governor.
Yeah, that guy's so cool. He's the funniest guy. He's got... Think about him, the successes he has. I mean, the guy is from freaking Austria, right? He has his
super heavy Austrian accent.
And he was a bodybuilding champion, but there hasn't been anybody like him since.
I think he's the most prolific one.
Yeah, and ever. Then he became an actor, and very successful actor. Then the guy runs for governor of California. And he becomes the governor of California.
Running as a Republican, which is crazy.
Yeah, right? In California. And he's had all kinds of beneficiary type, what am I trying to say, like charitable work with children's work and and exercising and the president's committee on this. And the guy there's a reason why. And he talks about it, and it starts up here in your own head. I mean, he was speaking to us at this conference, and it was amazing. But spend money on yourself first.
The best investment is
It
yourself.
is yourself. I say that. I've spent money on myself, and every bit of it has been worth it. That $99 one-way ticket that you got, wasn't that worth it? What you probably learned things from that conference that
is still used to
that it's like burned in your brain, because I know I did. I learned a lot. That's where, and I actually have the person who introduced me to the organization. I actually thanked her for doing that years later, because she's the one that introduced me to the organization, and there is where because I've been a lawyer for all these years, right? And I was happy to be just me, myself, and I, one person working with me, every once in a while a second person working with me, and I was happy like that, right? But when I learned what I learned from this organization, and the people that they introduced us to, and the people that we saw. Oh my God! All of a sudden, I'm thinking about the one that wrote the book about the habits. What was his name?
Stephen Covey.
No, him, but the other guy that was at the conference, and he was the one that interviewed Trump. Remember, what was his name?
Oh, Darren Hardy.
There we go.
Wow,
Hardy.
the original gangster.
That guy's a gangster and a half. He's a good man. His books read them a few times each.
Definitely a recommendation if you're starting out as an entrepreneur. Darren Hardy is.
Darren Hardy.
Wow.
Anything he's written, get your hands on it. Listen, get the audios, buy the books, whatever, and get into it.
Definitely.
The guy will straighten your ass out in a heartbeat. Because we all need to have our butts straightened out. Even me, after all these years, I'm constantly looking for ways to improve. And so think about it. Okay, I was watching this the other day. Okay, so Michael Jordan, right?
Of course.
The guy's, what is he? He's a legend.
Yeah, greatest basketball player to have ever.
Did he do it on his own?
No.
He's had a coach next to him. Every successful athlete has had a coach next to them, teaching them, correcting them. Oh, look, you're stepping this way. You move the ball this way. And these are people who are superstars in what they do, and they still have a coach. They're still learning. So anybody who's out there listening to this, you're stupid. And I hate to use that word because it's a word I hardly use, but I would say it in this case because you're listening to us and we're giving you golden nuggets here. You're throwing out golden nuggets right here, right, Nelson? And that's what you guys do here. The first thing you should do is spend money on yourself. If the best of the best of the best are constantly spending money on themselves, why can't you? You invest in yourself. They spend money on coaches. I personally met the guy who was coaching Jordan and
Phil Jackson? Wow. Huh? Phil Jackson?
Yeah.
Wow.
And what's the other guy that? Oh man, I'm not a sports guy. Okay,
It's all right.
I had to admit it.
By the way, it's funny you bring up Jordan. I write about Jordan in my book. I'm the biggest Michael Jordan fan on the face of the planet. So.
That guy's a legend.
Nah, have you seen The Last Dance? The documentary?
I didn't.
I would highly recommend it. People like you and me, that we
really.
I'll
definitely look.
10 episodes. It's short, but it's really good.
I'll look into it.
It's about Jordan.
I saw it, and because I'm trying not to get into series, right?
Yeah,
give me a movie. I'll sit down for 2 hours.
It's 10 episodes and it's done though. It's a miniseries, so you'll trust me. It's I like watching stuff to inspire myself and get motivated and that kind of stuff. Michael Jordan is the king of like the guy.
That guy oozed discipline,
greatness
on the court and everything he's done.
You know what he said at the end of the documentary after he won the 6th ring? He said, "I got pissed at the owners because they started selling off all the players."
Yeah, I remember something like that.
And then he said, I'm pissed because we could have won 7. Like his attitude is, I want more.
But that's a winning attitude.
Yes.
And see the word. What are we using? That one word we're using. Attitude. And what is that? Mindset.
100%.
Starts with a mindset.
This guy was so great that his teammates hated him because he would only let them exude their best effort around him. Like he was so great, and he gave so much effort all the time that he would only let the people around him do the same. Yep. That's insane. You know,
absolutely.
It's this his standard of excellence is just on another level. And then he translated that into becoming the most prolific tennis shoe in the history of shoes.
I know.
You know, the guy's a billionaire.
Who would have thought that a pair of shoes, would cost so much because of the name that's on it?
No, and then that's a cultural. Jordans are a cultural thing. Let me tell you, that's a culture. That's iconic on a cultural level. You know?
That doesn't fit in my head.
No, it doesn't. I know.
You know. But I know people who they make a living off of that.
Yeah.
It's
some original during the whole, during the pandemic, collectibles were up huge. You know.
I know. And
a part of that was Jordan's tennis shoes. I saw a pair of original ones that were like sealed and never used. They sold for $250,000 at an auction. You know, some stupid number. It's a cultural thing. It's definitely
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I acknowledge that. I don't know. I don't understand it, but I acknowledge it.
You know, definitely for sure. So,
what other questions do you have for
me? We could go all night. I've been told that I ask good questions. So.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I talk too much too. I do talk a lot.
Good thing.
I don't need much prompting.
It's a good thing we're on an hour-long podcast for sure.
Yeah.
So, Abe, I usually wrap up my podcast by asking the same couple questions. So, first thing is, what's something that inspires you?
My faith. The Bible. Ultimately, you want to know something? The best book by far when it comes to success and mindset and everything, for me, it's the Bible. A lot of these other books, have...
Very practical book, by the way.
Yeah, it is.
Very practical.
You read Proverbs every day for the rest, one chapter every day for the rest of your life, over and over and over again, and then Psalms with that. But yeah, that's an inspirational book. But on a secular level, it's just constantly reading the success patterns of people. Whenever biographies come out, I try to get my hands on them. I listen to them. Successful people say, "Hey, look, I read this book." And the other day, this person that I follow rattled off 3 books. They're already on my list. I'm finishing one of them because I want to get the insight from that. On a secular level, I always am looking for the writings of successful people with good ideas, deep ideas, like Harding. That guy, that book that's like one of the, what's it called? The
Compound Effect?
The Compound Effect.
Fantastic. That book changed my life forever.
Yeah, that's like...
You ever read something that it just you feel your brain change on a molecular level?
Absolutely.
That book was, The Compound Effect it really taught me how.
While we're talking about that, I'm going to go back to make sure I give your listeners the exact title of a book that blew my effing mind this year that I read. Let me go to my list of books.
Have you read the other one? Darren Hardy came out with another one called The Entrepreneur Roller Coaster.
Of course, I read that one. Yeah. No, I've read everything.
This guy's amazing. Yeah, the stuff he comes out with is nuts. I could go on. I mean, not even... That's a big part of investing in yourself, right? People think you have to spend thousands of dollars. Go out and buy a book, man.
Yeah.
Go out and buy a course.
I told you that someone rattled off books. I'm going to rattle off some. Tim Grover. Okay. Winning. Got to read that book. Winning. That's a must read. You got to read that book. And there's one more that I want to share, but Winning is like...
Tim Grover's another good one.
Yeah, Atomic Habits.
Yeah, that one's on my list. I haven't read it yet.
You must stop what you're doing and put that one on top play. Okay, right. Atomic Habits. Whew, that book is if you think Harding's books this is that Atomic Habits is like blow your mind. Anybody out there, get it now, and find it.
Definitely.
Yep.
As you know, obviously, I love reading, I love writing, so I'm a big proponent of books. I think it's funny how people nowadays will give an excuse, right? Oh, no, I don't have the time to read. And then
you have time.
You look at their YouTube history, you look at like Netflix, they've spent hours on their, And it's the same thing with something as simple as, no, I don't have the $15 for, a gym membership or
please.
whatever. But they have 15
In
bucks.
the United States of America, I don't care how dead broke you are, if you can't find $15 to buy a book to
Exactly.
expose you to multi-million-dollar concepts and to straighten out your mind, it's not the fact that you're broke, it's the fact that you're mentally broke. Yeah. It's not money broke, it's mentally broke. You don't have the stamina. You don't have what it takes to move yourself forward.
Right. What's the old saying they used to tell us? Broke is a circumstance, but poor is a mindset.
Yeah, it is.
Poor is a way of thinking.
I've been poor and I've been not so poor, and poor sucks.
Yeah.
Financially poor sucks, but mentally poor is
You'll never get out of it.
devastating.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
it's poor. It's unfortunate.
Definitely.
Yeah.
There's abundance in what's the old saying? First you have to mind sight versus eyesight.
Oh yeah.
You have to see it.
Well, that's been the whole theme
you
of
see
our
it.
conversation
Right,
tonight
right,
is
right.
mindset. We can sit and dream all day long, but if you don't put action to it, and if you don't have the right frame of mind, man, you're not going to get anywhere. I mean, I want to see you succeed. I want everybody to succeed. But if you don't have those two things straightened out, how many don't we talk to people who just, oh man, they talk a good talk and everything, and inside of yourself you're going, hey, the people, this guy still has to get some of his mindset together because he's on the wrong track, and you try to help him and everything. I just did that with somebody in my family. And they called me up and they're giving me, this was like one excuse after another. And I was like, I started to get, the vein right here started to pop because I don't think like that.
Yeah.
I don't think like with excuses and stuff.
Right.
That's not the way I grew up. That's not the way I think. That's not the way I've grown to think. And it's like, oh, get this and then that and all this and, oh my God. I spewed out so much stuff to try to get him to realize, look, and I told him, I said, you got to change the way you think, brother, because that's your biggest problem is the way you think. You're on the wrong track. So,
Couldn't have said it better.
Yeah.
So
what are the questions?
Next question. So what's your dream in life?
I want to see my kids grow more spiritual with their lives. I have 5 kids. They're all adults. My oldest is an attorney as well. And that's not by anything I did, except maybe just because I didn't tell her, I want you to be a lawyer, None of that stuff. Like I also met Camille Vasquez. You've heard of her with the Johnny Depp trial during the summer and everything.
Oh, the Johnny Depp's lawyer.
Yeah.
Oh,
she's
wow.
a badass, let me tell you.
I mean, she's got to be
Cute as heck and smart as heck. And she's half Cuban and half Colombian.
I did not know that.
Yeah, she is.
Ah, she's
And
one of us.
She speaks fluent Spanish. And in fact, when I took a photo with her, you should have seen the photo next to the Arnold Schwarzenegger photo on my social media.
That's cool.
And it was with me and Ramon taking a picture together because we were at the conference together. And we said, hey, Camille, this is a Cuban sandwich.
That's funny. She must have made bank on that case. Oh, my God.
Man, they made her partner right away.
Oh, man.
She's smart.
That's
she's
awesome.
Incredibly smart, and she's a good talk. Very humble, very humble. But what made her come to mind was that I told you I was talking to you about my daughter. Nobody told her you're going to be a lawyer. She did it on her own. Camille was given only 2 choices by her parents. Okay, you're either going to be a lawyer or you're going to be a doctor. You choose. her sister's a doctor, so she became the lawyer. That is, I mean, what I would want is that for my kids to have a spiritual life as well as a successful financial life, successful in what they do. I have 2 kids in the Navy. My 2 oldest boys are in the Navy. My daughter is just finished her bachelor's degree in New York, and she's doing a lot of interesting business stuff in New Jersey. And my youngest lives with me, and he's finishing up at FIU. He does all this audio video stuff, and he's learning that there. But I wish them spiritual success as well as success in whatever endeavor they want to pursue.
You got grandkids now, right?
I have 2 grandkids.
That's awesome, man.
I know.
My mom moved to Louisiana with my sister.
Oh, really?
And she's with my niece and nephew every day, and it's like, it fills my heart with joy to see them together. My mom is so happy. She's the best. They don't speak Spanish, so they call her Buela.
Oh,
you know, Buela.
that's a mistake. They tell her to teach them Spanish.
They're learning now with her.
One of the best things one of the biggest legacies my mother left me was the language. She insisted that we learn Spanish, even though we didn't have to. You know, growing up, in fact, my brother, my sister, and I, we would always talk to her in English. And, you know, everything was English except at home when she spoke to us in Spanish. And that is what, you know, that's a legacy she left me that has helped me immensely in everything, in my success, in everything I do. You know?
She moved over there, and now they say certain things, like, you know, Tío, ¿cómo está? You know, they say stuff over the phone.
Teach them how to say que hola.
Right?
But they got to say it just right. They can't just say que hola. No, it's got to be, oh yeah, say que hola.
I got my little nephew, he's 4, and my niece is 7. They're the best, man. I love kids. I'll get married and have kids one day.
There you go. Do that. That's my treasure, my kids.
Definitely.
Yep.
Yeah.
Last questions, or are there any more than one?
Last one. What's next for you?
Wow, what's next for me is I'm moving. Okay, so the goal is to grow the firm so I can lay back a little bit, but not to, you know, of course, take it easier.
Right, work because
I
you want
to travel.
Huh? Right, work because you want to, not because you have to.
I always want. I love what I do. For me, it's, you know how they say, if you do what you love, you're not really working. That's the truth. I love what I do. The part that I don't like is the running of the office, the management of the office, but that's the work for me. But the actual practice of law, I love it. You know what it's like to walk into a courtroom like today and win your client's case, and the face that they put, and that's priceless. There's no value to that you can give, and to be successful even on small scale stuff with people. But what's next for me is I've got to grow the firm. I'm sliding slowly into social media like never before. I actually started doing TikToks, but I swear I am not going to dance on a TikTok unless I get to like 10,000 followers or something like that. But I started doing them, and they're in Spanish. I'm thinking about starting to do English and Spanish, but it's all for, you know, the Spanish clientele. It's not like I'm going to go broke doing that, because there's as many people right now as we spoke. How many thousands of people walk through the border that are going to need lawyers?
Yeah.
Some of them are going to be mine, and I'm going to take care of them, and I'm going to zealously represent them. You know, for those of you who want to know what zealously means, that means con ganas. You know, like with all your heart and soul.
With all you got.
Exactly. And to grow my firm, to continue to grow personally. I want to travel some more, but I got to find someone to travel with, because traveling alone sucks. But other than that, that's the goal, is just to keep doing what I'm doing and getting better at it and growing and touching people's lives as much as I can.
That's amazing.
Yep.
Abe, it was great having you here.
Oh, it's awesome. I love sharing with you. In this endeavor of yours, and I wish you all the success. I want to see you get, like, what's his name? What's the big guy that does all the podcasts? God, I forgot his name.
Joe Rogan?
Yeah, Rogan. I want to see you become the Cuban
Joe Rogan.
Latin Joe Rogan.
I'll take it.
Yeah. Just look at his style. What's he do? He just talks. The guy talks. Interesting conversations.
Yeah.
And that's all it is.
For hours at a time.
I honestly didn't know that the guy was a comedian.
Yeah.
Until just recently. I thought that this is all he did was that talk show thing, and now he just got famous doing that. But the guy was a comedian. He's big into the wrestling world, right?
The UFC, yeah.
UFC, he's big into that. I learned all that stuff after the fact.
He's an interesting guy. He's a perfect case of just, if you follow what you love in life, you won't go wrong, you know? Because he likes fighting, he likes comedy. He likes podcasting. He just does what he loves.
He can be a little controversial sometimes, and he doesn't. The good thing is that he doesn't let people cancel him. He has touched some subjects that some people, they get pissed off about. But hey, one of the things about our country is that this is what's scary, is that this is being challenged now with the woke, mentality.
Yeah.
And I understand some of that stuff. I do. I'm not saying that some of it isn't okay, but like anything else, it's overdoing it. The beautiful thing is to listen to different sides of a story. Why do you think, okay, now this is a little bit of lawyer deep thinking. Why do you think that freedom of speech was a big deal for the founding fathers, who were defective men who had issues, who owned slaves and all that kind of stuff? But does that take away from the brilliance of what they did by founding this wonderful country and everything? No, forgive me. No, not at all. Because there isn't a single person. I don't got Martin Luther King, all those, everybody who you might value as a person, to look up to. They were all defective people. But the founding fathers made a big deal of freedom of speech, and the right to free speech, and that the government, because remember, the Bill of Rights was not written to tell us, the people, what to do. The Bill of Rights was written to tell the government, to put a check on the government as to what they cannot infringe on of us, that we have certain inalienable, that means that certain things, inalienable means that it cannot be separated from you. So for example, if you want to separate my arm from my body, you will cause trauma to me, right? That's what inalienable means. You cannot separate. I have rights that are innate, that are part of me. And the freedom of speech is one of them. So think about it. What's the big deal about freedom? What kind of speech needs the protection? Everyday garden variety speech that everybody agrees with? No. It's the bad kind of speech. The speech that the wokes don't like. The speech that offends you. That's the speech that needs defending. And that, I think, is a brilliant thing that they put that into the Bill of Rights. And that the Bill of Rights was meant to put a check on the government, not on us as the people.
Yeah.
So,
I mean,
that's my nugget of wisdom for the day.
Abe, I mean, this was fantastic. You're invited back anytime. I'll do this in Spanish in the future, and I'll bring
that
you
would
back.
be fun, yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I'm getting into the Spanish market maybe in a few months, so.
Super. I'll be happy to do that in Spanish, and we'll see how it comes, because my Spanish, sometimes I twist it
it's
around.
All right. But you speak it. That's what matters.
Yeah, exactly.
So how can people connect with you?
Well, I'm available on Instagram. It's Cardenas Law Firm, Cardenas in English. I grew up saying Cardenas all my life until I came to Miami.
Cardenas.
And here, if you say, it's Cardenas, or like my math teacher in junior high school would say Cardenas. No, they look at you like you're, ¿Quién se cree este que es? Tú sabes, what's up with this guy? When you say Cardenas, no, you're supposed to say Cardenas.
Cardenas.
So it's Cardenas Law Firm. That's an Instagram, TikTok. It's the same thing. My website is purely in Spanish, and it's consultoriajurídica.com. Consultoriajurídica.com. And I have 2 books on Amazon in English and in Spanish. A book in English and Spanish. On Amazon, just look me up, Abraham Cardenas, and that's me. That's where you can find me, and I'm going to be growing out on social media, with legal things, and as you get more practice, you do better, and so. Sure. But I will not dance on TikTok unless I get 10,000 followers. I already have the dance that I'm going to do.
That's awesome. Abe, thank you so much, buddy.
You got it, brother.
Alrighty, guys. This was another episode of the Montana Method Podcast. Signing off. Nelson Rodriguez Jr., author, writer of the Montana Method. Push it to the limit. The world is yours. If you're not chasing a dream, life is meaningless, guys. Till the next one.
I've been out here hustling all my life. Every day we get into it. Really out here in these streets. That's day and night. 24/7. Like there's nothing to it. When I was going through it, dog, I never got your call. I never asked for nothing, no. But now I want it all. I promise I'ma do it. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags to riches. Rags to riches. Came from rags.